It's week 14, and we'll go over our favorite picks on the main slate as we build a cash and GPP lineup on FanDuel and DraftKings. We'll also open up the mailbag. It's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, I was looking at the paper today, and you were listed as questionable all day to appear, and it looks like you showed up. Welcome back after being out last week with an illness.
Yeah, glad to be back. Had a great Thanksgiving, but a little bit too much fun, and it knocked me down. But I am back, ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Hey, Michael, I think a good way to start is let's open up the mailbag.
Mail call. Gather around, everyone.
Well, let's see what's in the mail. What's this? A letter for me.
And we do have mail, Eric. We got something from Michael Spencer. He's asking us, hey, what happens if you win your own contest? You've been very close to winning on DraftKings both weeks, and there's a good chance that if you win it, it'll be on DraftKings.
Well, look, let's first give congratulations to Michael Spencer for winning in a blowout our week 14 contest on FanDuel. So he wins $50. Congratulations. Mike Angarola, you know what? Good try, finishing second. Let's try to address Michael's question, Mr. Wiley. He says, what do we do if we win? Well, we would be gracious and step aside and let the second place winner take the $50 prize.
What?
Yeah,
we are you?
Absolutely not. Don't try to clip that recording and use it against me on court. That is not what we will do. We will come on and brag about how incredibly awesome we are, and we'll tell you how we spent the $50.
Right.
At least that's what I'm doing, Michael. What about you?
I'll give it to some charity with little children who need something special. So who wants to take that away from me?
Well, it will be nice to have you back. You were out last week and didn't participate. So last week on the DraftKings side, Michael, I thought I had a good enough lineup to win, but it was only worth fourth place. Congratulations to Robert Alderman, who scored 183 points, edging out second place finisher Scott Beeler and third place finisher Timothy Kuto. All right, you guys know the drill. You can use the timestamps anytime that you want to get to the section that you want to get to. We'll first do FanDuel and then do DraftKings. But Michael, we have a big announcement this week. This is our second to last show of the year. We'll be back next year to break down next week to break down the week 15 slate. And of course, we'll be back in the playoffs, and we'll give you more about that down the road. But for this year, one more show. All right, let's get into FanDuel, and we're going to do a cash and GPP lineup. We're going to start off at running back. And I got to admit, I'm a little intrigued by Austin Eckler because I really think game script wise, the Chargers are going to get way up on the Giants and their third string QB. But he is expensive at $9,200, and he is potentially hurt, got some bumps and bruises. So what I am going to suggest is we save some money off Austin Eckler, tack that game with other players at $6,700. Surprised he is this cheap. Javonte Williams. Here's a big stipulation. It's all about this guy, Michael. Melvin Gordon. What is his status? Last week, Melvin Gordon was out, and Javonte Williams just took over. Michael, just from a pure talent perspective, this rookie, he's going to be a great one in the NFL. And I think you're going to see in the offseason, Denver say goodbye to Melvin Gordon and really feature Javonte Williams. And why wait? That's what I'm hoping. 29 touches last week. Love his matchup this week. He's a home favorite facing the Detroit Lions, who aren't good on defense, especially against the run. So I just put the caveat that I'm less excited about this play if Melvin Gordon is playing, but I'm over the moon excited about it if Gordon's out.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think he had his coming out party. I mean, that was a That was a pretty handy win by Kansas City, and he still, kind of racked up the yards. And he's got a better matchup this week. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do at this price. I think this is a great place to start.
Love his role in the passing game that they've been using. Got 9 targets last week. So it's almost game script proof, although I really do think that they'll get up on the Lions. All right, so we're going to put Javonte Williams in there. Who are we going to pair him with?
Well, I think kind of similar situation with Josh Jacobs, with the benefit of having, unfortunately for Drake got injured. Drake is out. But I think we saw in that Raiders game, despite the fact that they lost, that Josh Jacobs needs to be a part of the passing game, and to have that balance and that not knowing what's going to happen based on who's in the backfield. And so he will be rewarded by Drake being out of the game. The same Kansas City Chiefs that gave up the yards to Javonte Williams, the Raiders will have to run the ball successfully to stay in that game. And so you're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs this week. So I really like Josh Jacobs.
I know you're a big Raider fan, and you got your pulse on this team. You told us last week or a couple weeks ago when we said, I'm just so amazed how much he is getting involved in the passing game. I always knew he's a great runner and he's a big goal line guy. But to add the passing element, to me, starts getting to the point where he becomes a premium back. And we get him at a non-premium price. So at $7,100 and a reasonable matchup like you talked about against the Chiefs. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a back and forth high scoring game.
So, one thing I want to call it is this is about the time of the season where you start to think about the backs that might have been overused, thus far. And this doesn't happen as much as it used to. That's the situation, especially in these two back systems or, running backs who've been just going all season long. And that's kind of the situation a little bit with Austin Eckler as well.
Yeah. And we get 2 guys who've been relatively fresh because they've kind of shared the role. But both of these guys, we think, especially if Gordon is out, are going to be really featured on the run and the pass. All right, so let's move over to wide receiver. And I like to talk about 2 guys together because I think you have to get some exposure to this Tampa Bay Buffalo game. I think it's going to be one of the highest scoring games on the slate. Who cares what I think? The lines makers think so at 52.5 over under. And it's a 3.5 point spread. So it's not going to be just one team blowing the other team out. At least I don't think so. So the 2 guys who are the premium players on both sides of that is Stephon Diggs and Chris Godwin. So let's get both of these guys in the lineup. Remember, with Tampa Bay, Antonio Brown has been suspended. So he is not one of the options. I know Brady still has his tight ends and he still has Mike Evans, but his favorite target is Chris Godwin, as evidenced by the 17 targets that he got last week.
Yeah, no, Antonio Brown's really been his biggest competition for that extra those extra quick targets. And in a PPR league or, even here in FanDuel, you want to go with the guy who's getting the most targets.
Yeah. And as far as Stephon Diggs is concerned, I'll just repeat the thing we say almost every week. When we play Tampa Bay, we don't want to play a running back, but wide receivers, they can be exposed. And clearly, Josh Allen's favorite target is Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and this is the time of the season where you really got to start paying attention to weather, right? And we saw that really rear its ugly head on Monday night in New England game where they passed 3 times and the Bills couldn't do a whole lot, when they were going into the wind. And so that's something to pay attention to. This game is going to be in warm, sunny Tampa Bay. So yeah, I like both of these picks a lot.
All right. So who's going to be the third wide receiver on the roster?
So so Keenan Allen could be out this week with the COVID bug that hit him, and even if he's not, his counterpart is been going down in price because Keenan Allen has been getting so many targets. But we saw him get those targets a little bit, those looks this week. Mike Williams, there he is at 6,900. at home in sunny LA. So I think that's a pretty good price for Mike Williams. If we can afford those three together, I think that's a pretty good receiver core. What do you think?
Yeah, again, we have a lot of conditionals. Boy, I love this selection against a poor New York Giants defense. If Keenan Allen is out, Keenan Allen, as you said, has COVID. He was vaccinated, so he needs 2 negative tests. Usually, players aren't able to come back in the same week. So I think the odds are Keenan Allen will be out, but it's something we'll monitor. Speaking of being out, at tight end, Washington's tight end, Logan Thomas, is almost certainly going to be out this week. Now,
I think they said he's done for the season, really.
The only question really is his Ricky Seals Jones, who has definitely done well when Logan Thomas has been out. As long as he going to actually be available to play? He's missed, I think, 3 games, but he was close to playing last week. And I think they're going to need him. They're fighting for a playoff spot, so I think there's no reason to hold him out unless he's absolutely a no-go. So given his very low price of $4,500, I don't believe FanDuel knew that Logan Thomas was out when they set this price. I'd like to take advantage of it, Michael. Obviously, if Seals Jones is not available, you got to pivot away.
Yeah, this is a spot we need to save some money this week with some of the other things that we have in mind. And so I think this is a great option if he's playing.
All right. So we got to do a quarterback and we'll do a flex. Why don't we go a flex and then we'll figure out what quarterback we'd like to go with.
All right. So let's go with Elijah Mitchell in the San Francisco at Cincinnati game. He's 7,400. Find him there. And San Francisco, I think, has shown, I mean, this rough loss for them. They have to be successful on the ground, and they didn't do that well in the beginning or even in the middle of that Seattle game. And last I checked, they're still not going to have their receiver back.
Deebo Samuel, yeah, I mean, it's really nice because then he has no competition for carries. I think Jeff Wilson only had 1 carry, and I think it might even got wiped out through a penalty. So this is definitely his backfield, and man, I like his involvement in the passing game here. And the Bengals, on this thing it says that they've done well against the rush, but they haven't done well against running backs. They're dead last in the NFL against running backs. Their defense overall has been very poor. It's only a question of game script. And I like the Niners here to have this game close and for Mitchell to have a good game. So here we are. We got $11,500. One option is to get a mid-range QB and pay up at a defense. If you guys have been paying any attention to us, that's not what we're going to do. So the QB that I am going to target here is Lamar Jackson. Michael, Lamar Jackson's had 2 very subpar games, but because of his involvement in the rushing game, he's still, from a cash game perspective, gives you somewhat of a decent floor, which is what we want in cash games. Now, I think it's been kind of, he's going to regress a little to the mean in the fact that he's just not getting touchdowns. He hasn't gotten a rushing touchdown forever.
I think they need to be a little more balanced. I think they've been trying to use the pure run as opposed to, Lamar, breaking out. And also I think that they need to be a little more thoughtful how they use the passing game. They need to win, and they need to win their division. That loss was pretty rough this last week. And so Lamar Jackson is the key to them winning. So at 7,900, he's a little bit cheaper than some of these other quarterbacks and has as much, if not more, upside.
and he ran the ball 17 times the last time that he played Cleveland. So they're not afraid to have him run the ball against Cleveland. All right, so that leaves a whopping $3,600 for a defense. And Michael, we really studied the cheap defenses, and we didn't really like any of them. So, our recommendation is if you want to pay down on one of the players that we have, if you don't like as much, and get up to maybe the Chargers. I'm a big fan of the Chargers because the Giants don't have Daniel Jones or Glennon. So they'll be starting a third string QB. But what we're going to do is we'll actually go all the way down to the New York Jets. The New York Jets, it's a punt play, but they're at home and they play a New Orleans team. Now, they might get Alvin Kamara back, which makes me a little less excited about this play. But, Taysom Hill makes some mistakes if he even plays. They may be down to their own third string QB. So I'm gonna argue for the Jets here. Is there anything positive you can say besides the price about the Jets?
No, I mean, I think it's about Taysom Hill's finger, right? I mean, you could tell in that game that he was very impacted in his ability to throw the ball with his middle finger. So, and I think it's not too different than what kept Russell Wilson out for a few weeks. And so I suspect he won't play. And if he doesn't play, this is a great play this week.
All right. So here's the deal, folks. We have a lot of if-thens, right? Javonte Williams, we're a lot more excited about if Melvin Gordon is out. We're more excited about Mike Williams if Keenan Allen is out. Ricky Seals Jr. must actually play and not be out. And of course, Logan Thomas, we're pretty much sure is out. So with all these if-thens, we wanted to leave some salary. So we didn't want to force the salary. So we have $600 to play with. And to the extent we get news that adjusts this, we can spend that extra $600. So that's our cash game lineup. Let's go to GPP. Here's our GPP lineup. We're going to attack it with a stack. And let's go after that Buffalo Tampa Bay game. 52.5 over under, 3.5 spread. So it shouldn't be a blowout. It should be a back and forth. I actually am going to take the Josh Allen side. I think Josh Allen has such a huge ceiling with his legs. And I think it's very hard to traditionally run on Tampa Bay. So here's the deal. We'll go Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, his number one target. And I have no problem with running it back with Chris Godwin, but I'm going with Mike Evans, saving the $500. And Mike Evans, I think, has a little higher ceiling than Chris Godwin. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think Evans is kind of the touchdown guy for Brady. So I agree with the upside there, and I definitely agree with Buffalo needing to pass the ball. Tampa Bay has been throwing. I mean, we've been seeing them throw a ton this week, so I don't know that it's horrible to go the other way. But there's a few more targets for Tom Brady, so you got to be a little bit more, concerned about the guy who might get the upside there. I think there's no question that Diggs is the guy that gets the upside for Buffalo.
Yeah. And I should have said, we're also including Emmanuel Sanders on that. So the two top wide receivers for Allen to throw to. Not going to talk much about running backs because it's the same two that we already talked about, Josh Jacobs and Javonte Williams. Since both of the guys are goal line backs, both of the guys are heavily involved in the passing game and featured back, we think they have a high ceiling in addition to a high floor. And we already talked about Ricky Seals Jones, but the other player that I felt that was so valuable to get in the lineup, this Las Vegas, Kansas City game, a little small stack with Josh Jacobs on one side and a guy who has struggled, but Michael, he has a high ceiling, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and I think this is all about Pat Mahomes being right. You say he's struggled. I think it's really been Pat Mahomes who's been struggling. He's had a rough year, and part of it's because he's really having a hard time with people taking away the big play. well, you could still get the big play with Tyreek Hill, even if you don't give it to him more than 5, 6, 10 yards downfield. And that's what they need to do. So, yep, a lot of upside here. And he's historically had some pretty good games against the Raiders.
Yeah, I was not going to bring that up. I was trying to be nice. But not since you did. Yeah, he 24 points the last time they played. And the punt defense of the Jets. So that's GPP. Let's go over to DraftKings and construct our cash lineup on DraftKings.
So, Eric, as always, we like to start at the running back position, but a couple of caveats I want to call out, and we saw this really this week a couple of times especially with that New England Buffalo game in Buffalo on Monday night. This is the time of year where you're out to think about a few things. One, the weather. The weather really impacts the passing game. Something to be paying attention to. Not a whole lot going on this week, but I think we'll be seeing it again next week. The other thing is to be thinking about running backs who may have a little bit of overuse. And we did take that one into account a little bit this week. And so I say that because we didn't necessarily go with the most expensive backs. We could have gone with Austin Eckler. He has got the questionable tag on right now. This is a PPR league, and he's big in PPR. But at 8,300, I think we're feeling that's a little pricey. Kamara hasn't been back, and New Orleans has been a little bit lost. And so he's the next guy I think that's, tempting to look at.
He definitely is tempting because he's facing the Jets and everyone seems to be able to expose the Jets defense, but not knowing their quarterback situation. First of all, even a healthy Taysom Hill, I think hurts. I mean, Hill ran for over 100 yards last week. And it but for the price, man, I like it more as a GPP play if you want to take a shot on Kamara. But for cash, given the price, I don't know if he has as high a floor that we would like.
Yeah, and we talked a lot, and when we talked about in FanDuel, if you paid attention, if you were watching that, about two guys that are a couple $1,000s cheaper than these guys, and they're now the star backs. They're the number one guys because their counterparts are out, and that starts for me with Josh Jacobs at $6,200. Drake is out for the rest of the season. It's not for sure whether or not they're going to have their tight end back either, and that means Josh Jacobs is going to get involved. Just continue to get more and more involved in the passing game. We've seen the last couple of weeks that's really rewarded people who've used him in their fantasy lineup. I can't believe he's still only $6,200. And Kansas City has been vulnerable against running backs.
Michael, talk to me. You're the big Raider fan. You watch every play of the Raiders. What have you seen from Josh Jacobs this year? Has it been more of the same? It seems like he's really progressed this year over previous years.
Yeah, no, actually, I mean, his running usage has been down a little bit. You see, especially in the couple weeks ago and the week before that, they were kind of balancing things out. He got a little bit, bumped and bruised, but they're using him more appropriately in the passing. Let's not forget, he was really more of a wide receiver at Alabama than he is a running back. And yeah, he's a big, strong guy. I think he's really key to the Raiders. That was a nice win on Thanksgiving Day against Dallas. And that Washington game unfortunately came down to the last kick. I think they could have even used him a little bit more, and that would have been right. It really hurt to not have Weller, and still hurts to not have Ruggs.
I just think it's amazing because as not so much a Raider fan, but a fantasy fan, the community has always said this guy just can't catch passes, and to see what he's done this year in catching passes. And I mean, they used to have Jalen Richard who would come in. They got Kenyon Drake. Well, now Kenyon Drake's out for the season. So I really like Josh Jacobs. And I can't believe I'm saying these words, but I like him, especially on DraftKings because of the full PPR, because of how much he's getting involved in the passing game. So I will put another guy who we can save some money on at $5,900, Javonte Williams. Wow. Man, a coming out party for the rookie last week. Boy, did he look impressive. on route to 29 touches, 9 targets. And oh, by the way, that was against Kansas City. I know they don't have the best defense. This is why we're facing Josh Jacobs against him. But guess what? I think the Detroit Lions are worse than the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And game script wise, I really do think Denver should playing at home. They're a home favorite. All spells great things. My only question mark is, will he have the backfield again all to himself? And that depends on the health of Melvin Gordon.
Exactly. So, Eric, where do we want to go next?
All right. So let's see. Let's go to wide receiver. You know, I let's just be honest. You had a hand in this lineup. If there's any doubt, I think the first wide receiver is on a team we've already talked about, the Raiders. But I'm going to let you talk about them. But I just will say, I have truly been impressed with Hunter Renfrow. At the beginning of this season, I don't know where he was in people's fantasy, rankings, but I can tell you very low. And ever since Henry Ruggs left the team, he has really embraced this number one target. We were so high on him last week because even Waller was out. Not sure about Waller's status for this week. He's questionable. What, as a Raider fan, what have you seen out of Hunter Renfrow this year?
Well, I think we Raider fans have known all along that he's kind of Derek Carr's most comfortable pass catcher. And that's what the role that he played at Texas in college as well. I mean, look what he's done every week except for that Cincinnati game in terms of targets. So yeah, maybe the yards weren't there in some of the prior weeks, but the targets and the receptions were. And he's also been kind of the guy around the goal line. And when you take Waller out of the game, who people have been doing even when he's not even when he's present, they've been trying to take him out of the game, then he's kind of the go-to guy. And so the Raiders have had to throw the ball quite a bit this season. They're going to have to throw the ball again this week against Kansas City, and that bodes well for Hunter Renfrow. But he's still pretty, cheap at $6,100. I don't understand why he's so cheap, given how high his floor is.
Yeah, and DraftKings is a full point per reception, and that's the one thing you feel like you can count on him is to collect a bunch of receptions. All right, so got Hunter Renfrow. We need
to attack a new game, right? So maybe we should go attack a game with a couple guys.
Yeah, well, I was about to tell you, no more Raiders.
Yeah, and I'm staying away from this game, so no Chiefs either, right? But okay, let's go pick a couple guys from another game. And this one is a little bit dependent on Keenan Allen not making it into the game because of the COVID protocol, which, he does have a possibility coming back in because he's vaccinated, but pretty unlikely. So that's the key here. With him out against the New York Giants' poor defense, I think there's really a lot to like with both Mike Williams and then Guyton, who got a couple of nice targets this last week at $3,400, could really be rewarded by Keenan Allen being out. But we've saved a lot of money. We don't really have somebody on the slate right now who, kind of jumps out of the page as having that huge upside. And as I look here, I mean, Kittle is $500 less than Kelsey. And yeah, Kelsey's going up against the Raiders, but let's face it, the Chiefs are a different team right now. They're winning more on the defensive side of the ball. Kittle had the best, I think, tight end week of the year this last week, and he had an almost similar week 2 weeks prior. He's had only one bad week that week against Minnesota in the last 5 weeks. If we can get something that mirrors what he did against Seattle, I think he's worth paying up for. Eric, what do you think? Deebo Samuel's out again. There's just so much upside with him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 100% that Deebo's out, but there's a good chance he'll be out. It's something that you would want to monitor. Again, love this pick even more without if Deebo Samuels is out. But I'll just say Cincinnati is a terrible defense. They really are bad. I am going to choose to pay down at quarterback a little bit because we got a guy that, man, when you talk about floor, if he plays, if he's available at only $5,600 is Taysom Hill. So there's a couple of things that I like about Taysom Hill. First of all, I like the fact that he is facing the New York Jets. Gosh, the New York Jets are they're terrible on the defensive side and terrible at defending against the pass. But what I really like about Taysom Hill is not just his passing. How about his running ability? How about that he actually picked up the 3-point bonus on DraftKings last week when he ran for 101 yards. So, and the Saints, Michael, they have to win this game. And throw on the fact that he might actually get Alvin Kamara back, a guy that is an absolute weapon on the offense and he can dump passes off to and watch him run 20, 25 yards. At this low salary, I love his floor.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the only question here is whether he's the starter and plays. And so if he is the starter, I think this is the best bargain at the quarterback position, who not only has a high floor because of the running, but has a pretty high ceiling because of his ability to get in the end zone when he's running.
Yeah. And a dream matchup.
And so we've talked a little bit about Elijah Mitchell. He's a questionable tag, so you got to pay attention to that. But Cincinnati's been rough against running backs. They may have actually been okay against the running game, but I think Eli Mitchell will also be involved in the passing game as well. And so, again, this is dependent on Deebo Samuel being out. But if he's out, Mitchell's the guy.
How good has Elijah Mitchell been this year? I'll tell you, good enough that DraftKings could have gotten his picture by now. But come on. All right, so that leaves us $3,200. And actually, Michael, we don't have to go bargain basement here. We can take a look. And you know what? It's been a rough year for my Seattle Seahawks. Haven't been able to get many of them in our lineup. But let's get their defense in the lineup at $3,100. All right, so folks, some of you guys are going to say, the Seattle defense sucks. What are you doing putting them in? They don't suck. You know who sucks on Seattle is their entire offense for the last 6 or 7 weeks until last week. I said it in the last week's show where I said, you know what? Eventually it should click when these guys get, because they have the major weapons between Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they finally all got on the same page. And the Seahawks look great. Now, who do they face this week? The Houston Texans.
Man, what a heaven sent for them, huh?
Yeah. Not only is Houston arguably the worst team in the NFL this side of Jacksonville, but they might not even have Tyrod Taylor in this game. It's likely he's going to be out. So I think game script wise, Seattle should get way up on them, and their defense, I think, can hopefully take advantage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, and I was pretty impressed in that Niner game. So, I mean, it was almost a different team out there. This game is in Houston. That's the only knock that I would give you is it's an away game and they don't have the ability to use the 12th man, but I think that there could be some upside and certainly a decent floor. Okay. So Eric, I think we want to attack this Buffalo Tampa Bay game. We like the 52.5 over under 3-point spread.
So which quarterback? Is it going to be Brady or Josh Allen?
Yeah, you could go either way. I just think that at some point Tampa Bay could start to be a little more balanced attack than they have been. But if you want, this Buffalo team has to attack the pass to beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's run defense is just too good. And frankly, Buffalo's run offense is not that good. And Josh Allen can also do a lot with his legs. I mean, he had no business throwing the ball at all in that game in New England, and he still did, and still, completed some passes. I really think this is could be a really big game for both Allen and Diggs. And then you run it back with someone like a Godwin, who is the PPR master in Tampa Bay.
We'll be back with you next week for our final show of the year. And until then, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Here are a couple NFL DFS strategy shows. Check them out.